Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Tackle Shop Live. Oh, boy. Lane Gray's in the house. How are you, buddy?
You took my breath away.
Yeah.
Young and pretty, you wasn't just a
Fish
dream.
machine. What's happening, buddy? Bob
The
Donahue's
next day,
here.
you called me up. You told me
Rob's
I'm your
back
little
Bassett.
buttercup.
Love it.
You
Love
came
it, brother.
over and you fell into my arms.
Randall Miller, how you doing? Robert
Well, I
Murray,
know
what's
what
going
I
on,
feel.
guys?
Please
Tim
tell me your
McPhee
love
is
is
in
real.
the house. Larry Shope.
You make me smile
Johnny,
when I look you.
how are you, Johnny?
Down, knowing how you
Listen,
blue.
Pasquarino, what's up, buddy? Ed Radnowski's here. How you doing, Ed? Kirk Blackador, how are you? Benjamin Grutchell, how are you, buddy? Gio Miller, what's up, buddy? Mike Hayer's here. Man, oh man, we got a great show for you tonight, as always. And Nick's not going to be here tonight. He's taking care of his kids. Got to run them all over God's creation. You know how it is when you got kids playing sports. His wife's away, so Nick's got his wife's away. Nick's can't play. Yeah, that's the deal there. Good to see everybody stopping in. Ray Cruz is here. Denny Pouse, Joey Orner, Mark from Lisa Lake Fishing Club. Yeah, baby. Right on. Right on. Yeah. How you doing, David Schalemeyer? David Delabar, how are you? Randall Miller, thank you, PA. Yeah, go red, baby. Well, that was a big deal this week. Had our big election throughout the country, and everybody came out and voted. Had a great turnout, which was cool. Everybody did their part. However it turned out for you guys are watching, the big thing was a great turnout. Great amount of people came out, showed their support for our country, and we have a new incoming president, and I think it's going to be good for everybody. We'll see how it all goes. But congratulations to everybody who went out and voted. That's a big deal to do that. So good stuff there. So we are, and we've been stocking up here at the shop and working hard. We got a new computer system. We got our new website going. Make sure you guys go over and check out sfttackle.com. We got a brand new website up and running. You can check it out. We love it. It's working really well. We got a couple bugs we're still working on, but the site is beautiful. Great search part of the site, which we're really proud of. And the checkout process is super easy for you guys. So we're excited. We're proud of it. And I hope you like it. Let us know what you think of it in the comments when you get a chance, and give us a shout out. And if everybody here watching tonight can like and share our social media, slam the like buttons and go ahead and share that with your buddies so they don't miss another episode of Tackle Shop Live. We come at you every Thursday night at 7 o'clock. My name is Mike Acord. George is floating around here somewhere getting a few things. There he is. And we are going to have a great show for you tonight, as we do every Thursday night at 7 o'clock. And we talk fishing, we talk tackle, we talk technique, and that's what it's all about here. Let me tell you something. This weather has been absolutely exceptional. I don't know about you guys, but our weather here is out of control. We had record-breaking temperatures yesterday. We hit the 80-degree mark in November, which is unbelievable. So we set a new record since, I heard him say, since 1948, the record was set. So there you have it, 80 degrees. What about that global warming? If it happened back in 1948, how can it possibly be global warming?
They called it something different.
About back then they did.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know, but I sure like it. The fish are biting like crazy. We could use some rain around here. Our river is dry as all get out. A lot of guys are fighting, getting around in our river. Can't get to a lot of the fish that are out there. The kayak guys were even dragging their kayaks around. They've been complaining about it too, how low it's been.
I think if you look around the region,
Yeah.
most of the Mid-Atlantic and most of the Northeast, dry.
Dry. Dry is the word.
Dry as a bone. Dry as a bone.
Yep. Dry as
But
a
you know
bone.
what that means? It's going to start raining.
Yep. Yep.
We're having La Nina.
Yeah, for sure.
And they say in La Nina, the jet stream comes across the country, but it dips down. So it brings that warm air up into our territory. So we're supposed to have above average temperatures and above average moisture this winter.
Yep. Yep.
So
Charged Lightning's in the house. But we are Tackle Shop Live, and we come at you every Thursday at 7 o'clock, and we are going to get our show going tonight. But thank you, everybody, for stopping in and saying hi. But this is we're a tackle shop, and one thing we like to do is we like to talk tackle. We call this Tackle Talk. Let's go, John Pennington. You better believe it. Mike Barr, good to see you, buddy. Glad we saw you today, and that was cool. You're going to go fishing on Thursday with our guide service, and you guys are going to whack them. Going out with Corbin, and Corbin's all fired up. I talked to him tonight, and he is fired up on catching some giants for you. So there you go. Brian Sedlock just snuck up on us here. How you doing, Brian? All right, man. There we go. We got a crowd here starting. Check out the show. It's all good. George, what do you got going on, man? What's happening? What's new in the world of fishing tackle?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I like a lot.
I've been chained to my computer and strapped to the warehouse for 14 straight days. But I'm fishing this weekend, so I mean, it's all gonna have to wait. If there's something you guys are looking for that's in the warehouse and hasn't hit the shelves yet, and it doesn't hit the shelf by the end of Saturday, well, you're just gonna have to wait.
Yeah,
because I'm going fishing next. I'm going fishing Sunday.
Yeah,
and we're pumping it out of here. We got a bunch of product to bring you in the coming weeks. A lot of the iCast stuff continues to roll in heavy.
Yep. Every day, man. It's like Christmas in here every day. I say it all the time, but that's the way it is. We love it.
Well, it's not really Christmas, but it's a
lot like it though. All the new presents we get every day.
Oh, I don't see your ass back there in the warehouse processing it. So no, I don't know. What I do on Christmas is different than that. But anyway, so yeah, I got a couple things, guys. Now, when I was at iCast this year, every appointment that you go to, right? The chit chat, the icebreaker conversation is, hey, you see anything interesting? Did you see anything, that really you really took notice to? And what's going on there? You got your salespeople, your management people, and they're making some small talk, preparing to have your meetings and all. But at the same time, they're also gauging their competition through conversation with their customers. Mm-hmm. And usually, there's something, but a lot of the times it's like not most of the stuff you look at. It's something little, it's something off the wall. For me this year, one of the things that really caught my eye, and I really wasn't even particularly looking forward to this particular meeting, because I thought we had taken care of most of our business before the show, but these guys sandbagged me a little bit, and it was BKK, the hook company.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Oh man. As
a matter of fact,
they railroaded us.
The meeting was so, it was kind of like we had already took care of business. It was so mundane. I went by myself. Nick and Mike were collecting content from another vendor. And I said, yeah, I'll just go over and take care of business here. We have a great rep that works for us that from BKK rep group, Mr. Ben Feeser. A lot of you meet him when you come to the shop here, and he's working our events.
Good guy.
So anyways, I make my way over there, and
Men of culture.
they show me this big box loaded with hooks. Waterproof lid. There's 48 different hooks in here. Okay? Now, I really miss cameraman Nick on this one, but I'm going to do my best for you. So
Let me get the camera. I'll get the camera.
I don't know if you guys can see this, but like, try to do this without dropping this. Like, you know, these are your permalocks. These are your offset wide gaps. These are your superline offset wide gaps. Your ultralight trebles. These are made specifically for jerkbaits. Long shank drop shot hooks, regular drop shot hooks, straight shank flipping hooks, round bend, J hooks, you know, offset, worm hook, Texas, but it's every size. It's a full size run. So, you know, if you're one of those hook people that never seems to have the right hook, this OCD box has got your name all over it. Now check this out. So let's say I want the Permalock 3.0. Let's say I'm going to rig up a maybe a Super Fluke or maybe a Senko. Pull out my Permalock box. All labeled up there. Open it up. Pull out my Permalock hook. Okay? Let's talk about this hook. So, BKK's new Armor Point series. So, you're going to hear about the Permalock. You're going to hear about the weighted Permalock. You're going to hear about the offset wide gap, aka the EWG. You're going to hear about the offset wide gap HD, aka the Superline. You're going to hear about the round bend offset worm hook, the drop shot hook, the long shank drop shot hook. You see where I'm going with this? There's a lot of new hooks, but they're all high carbon steel. You know, they just can't call it that. They have to call it hypercarbon. This is a medium to lighter wire hook. You can see it doesn't have a lot of flex, just the right amount. Super slide coating, very slippery. And of course, the Permalock has the screw in. Now, the weighted Permalock, wait till you see this. And here we go. Let me get the 3.0 out here. It's interesting they put some of these in these kits yet because they have one of the few hooks that hasn't shown up in the individual packaging is the weighted Permalock. But this is the hook that stopped the show. Tungsten. Can't really see it. So you got a fluorocarbon little keeper system right there. Comes out like a little V groove on both sides of that. Stiff fluorocarbon. And I'm here to tell you, when you push this into the head of a bait, and it can be a Senko Yamamoto, it is not coming out without some serious pulling. So if you want to have a, let's see, this one here is a 16th ounce or a 32nd ounce on a 3.0. Plus you can buy just these weights They go on with a little gated clip system, real easy. You just roll that right around, take it right on, and take it right off. So if you want to put a lighter one of these on your hook, you just roll it right around. This bad boy right here is awesome. Now, currently you can't buy this hook by itself, but I imagine any day all the other hooks came in, like 99% of everything else came in. And what's cool is if you have this system, or if you want to build this system, because you can buy just the box. You could also buy the box with like 10, 12 packs of hooks in it to get you started. But when you buy a pack of these off the wall, they come in this box. They come on a card, but they're in this box, all labeled up. Boom, drop it right in there. So that's your Permalock weighted and your Permalock. You know, this is like a mid-sized gap. So it's not like a big wide gap. So, you know, like if you don't like that big wide gap on like a Senko or on like a smaller diameter fluke style bait, this is your hook. You got plenty of gap, but it's not a big extra wide gap. So really like the Permalock, really like the weighted Permalock, really like the BKK. Now, check this out. Number 5, very, very important number in the treble hook business. Your number size 5 is very key element, probably the most important treble hook size is the number 5. You'll find the 5 is used on a lot of your top branded jerk baits. And, you know, what's the question that we get asked all the time? All the time we get asked, will this jerk treble hook affect the balance of my jerk bait? Meaning, I have a jerk bait that suspends real well. Is this going to affect it? Well, this treble hook was built to replace the treble hooks on most jerk baits. It's the wire diameter and the weight and the gap and the sizes, including the most important 5, fits it perfect. So they call it the hyper latch, and that's because it's sort of a modified wide gap, Sprout wide gap. 70 SS short shank. So you can size up, and you still get your balance. Really cool treble hook. That's new this year. And you can buy, you know, all these hooks you can buy just separate by themselves. You don't have to buy this kit. I'm just telling you, this freaking kit is the bomb. So here's the deal. The worm hooks that we looked at, I'm going to show you another one here. This is the long shank drop shot hook. And I want to show you the detail that goes into these hooks. So the long shank drop shot hook has a fluorocarbon loop that is it has a fluorocarbon loop that is molded onto the hook shank. It's a light wire straight shank. So if you're Texas rigging your robo worm or your magic worm, or if you're threading on your baby Z2, this is your hook, and it comes in a full set of sizes. You know, to match all worm sizes, you have your size 2 all the ways up to your size 3L. Speaking of full sizes, the regular EWG hook, which is probably the most popular hook, probably the number 1 selling soft plastics hook by every manufacturer in the country, is a 3.0 EWG. Now, they call theirs a offset WG, whatever. Whatever makes you happy. Perfect EWG hook. Okay. Now, let me tell you something. When you go, and this is attention to detail, when you go to the heavy duty wide gap, which would be the Superline flipping hook, the little part where the eye is bent over to the shank of the hook has a nylon I don't know what you'd call it, like a blob of nylon in there to keep the line from jumping in there. I'm going to show you a Texas sized hook. 6.0 heavy duty. This is for when you go down to Texas or Florida and your eyeball, that little gap right there, is coated with, so the line doesn't come around and get down in there. Very cool. Very cool. So that's your BKK line of, now they're called Armor Points. Armor Points, remember, it's high carbon steel, which is your best steel. You can resharpen that. It's super slide coating, which is really important. And it's full, they make a full range from a nose hooking drop shot, long shank drop shot, EWG regular, EWG super, Permalock with the screw, Permalock that with the weighted tungsten weight, round bend offset, full line. We got them all. Every SKU in here in store, 99% in stock. The only one that's not in stock is the weighted Permalock. And we're expecting those any day. So wanted to break down some BKK for you. And there you go. Mike, you need a headset so you can talk on the mic and carry it with you. I want to ask you a question. I'll bet you didn't know that in a lot of instances, you've been fishing BKK hooks.
Well, up until a year and a half or so ago, I really didn't know. Maybe 2 years ago, I didn't know anything about it.
BKK is one of the largest manufacturers of hooks for the OEM industry.
Yeah.
So a lot of your baits that you're buying come through with BKK. A lot of your manufacturers that aren't necessarily hook manufacturers, but offer lines of really nice hooks.
The other thing about BKK is it's a huge saltwater hook company. They do all kinds of saltwater stuff. I think that's really where they were known, weren't they, for the longest time?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nomad uses all BKK hooks on their saltwater baits. And then when they got into the freshwater market, they're all BKK hooks. So BKK is great hooks. Give them a shot. You can go to sfttackle.com, check them out. All right, next up. It's Respect Series time. And this one is I don't know. It just kind of showed up. It's like the least amount of fanfare that I've seen out of a Respect Series, but this thing is awesome. So this is called TLO. So we got the orange belly. That's like full orange too, man. That's like a hardcore, like deer hunting orange. We got the white tail section, the purple back. And then we have this like brownish shoulder. And of course, you got it in the 110. You got it in the 110 plus 1. You've got it in the 110 junior. You've got it in the 110 junior plus 1. Pop X, Pop Max. You have it in the Vision 95. Full run. And I mean, this color just kind of speaks to me in a number of different fisheries. So they're in stock. TLO. They're not up on the website. We generally don't put these up because they generally don't last long enough to really put them up, but we might get them up. You never know. If there's any left, you can call here to the shop. You can stop in the shop. We're loaded up on TLO. And yeah, wanted to make you aware of that. Okay. The last thing I want to show you, and I usually don't do this if we're not ready for you, and we're not, but we hopefully will have these ready to go tomorrow. So please check back. I have one size up on the website now. The other two sizes will be up and running at some point tomorrow, probably tomorrow night, if I had to guess. But this is the new Afco breakwater waterproof glove. Okay. So one thing I like about it is it's thin. It's a thin glove. I can fish with this on. We got some serious grip on the palm. I mean, that is some traction. And then your thumb and index finger on both hands, you can operate your screen with. Right? I don't have my phone or else I'd show you. But they're waterproof, and we put them on, and we took our hand, and we submerged it down in the minnow tank, and moved it all around, and came out, and you could basically shake it off, and it was dry, and you were not wet. So these are 100% waterproof. They're very warm. Probably when it's 80 degrees out, it's probably not the best time to try to sell gloves.
Well, last year, the hot ticket was the Helm glove. It was a real thin glove that was just thin enough and that it would keep your hands and take the wind off your hands. And it was great glove. And I still have mine. I love them. And they were great to keep the wind off and everything. But if you were out and it started raining, or you were out fishing while it was a little bit of snow, or if you had a fish and you were trying to grab a fish, you had to either take your glove off or get your glove wet, and then your hands were wet. This one is going to fix all those problems, and it's still thin. It's not as thin as the Helm glove, but it's super thin. And something I've been looking for. I can't wait. I got a pair. I grabbed one right away when they came in. I think it's going to solve all my problems that I had with cold, wet hands fishing in the in the cold months, which we love to do all winter long. And it may be spritzing a little bit, maybe a heavy fog in the morning and cold. It may be that you catch a fish right away. You don't want to take your gloves off. You can reach down and grab them real easy and keep your hands dry. It's going to be just a great glove for all different cold weather fishing situations.
Yeah, and they're for what you're getting. They're not horribly priced. They're $54.99. They're a great glove. The Helm glove is still available, obviously. It also has two new colors this year. I'm not going to show them tonight because we don't have them loaded up on our page. There probably will be by tomorrow night. There's a charcoal gray and a OG bottomland camo for all you duck hunters and whatnot. So the Helm glove is still, awesome, but this is the breakwater. And when I say waterproof, I mean
it's waterproof. We were swimming around in the tank with them. Beautiful.
So there you go. That's your tackle talk for.
I'm really excited about those hooks. I'm really excited about that box. I'm really excited about that OCD box filled up. Anybody who ever wanted to redo your whole hook selection and man, you're trying to write it down on a piece of paper, you don't have to. Come in, buy the box. You'll fix
They're
yourself.
great hooks. They're absolutely great.
And
hooks.
they are a really good hook. We this is our third year selling them, or second year?
Year. It's been a couple years.
Yeah, and they're really taking off in here, and guys are really liking them. And it's just a great quality hook, no doubt about it. Susquehanna River or Susquehanna Flats Trail, starting in March of next year, down on the bay. Brian was here to drop his paper off. Starting in March of 2025, March the 30th. Anchor Marine, open to all. It's an early part of the year tournament circuit. If anybody wants to get involved, you can register. It's $120 entry fee, $10 lunker, $30 option pot, and it's kind of laid back. A bunch of great guys, hardcore guys. It's a good time, and plus it's a great time of year to fish. There wasn't any tournaments going on down there, so Brian filled a niche there, and last year he had a great turnout, so he's doing it again this year. That's the Susquehanna Flats Trail, and we're a proud sponsor of it, and it's going to be starting in March of March 30th of 2025. If you need any more information, you can come here to shop. I'll have the papers
right around the corner.
Yeah, I'll have the papers all ready for you, and it's never too early to start planning your tournament season.
Right around the corner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
As a matter of fact, what's our date?
Yeah. What is it?
May 18th.
May 18th.
You might as well just, while you got that calendar out filling in all Brian's dates, you might as well pencil in the
greatest tournament ever.
SummerSlam, Susquehanna Fish and Tackle, sfttackle.com, SummerSlam, May the 18th out of Anchor Marine. We will start accepting buy-ins for that on April the 18th. And trust me, between now and then, you will hear quite a bit more about it.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I can tell you, we had meetings with our sponsors, and the payout's going up again.
Yes, sir.
So,
yes, sir.
We're probably going to be paying out more than the Elite Series.
Yeah, that's right.
As a matter of fact, I would say that if you finish in below 20th place in the Elite Series, you'd be better off fishing SummerSlam. The pay is better.
It's a lot of fun. It's a great tournament. We always have fun doing it, and it's for all levels of fishing, because it's everybody wins tournament format. So that means that all you have to do to enter is to make a purchase of products in the Shimano, G Loomis, Jackal, and Power Pro lines, equaling $250, and that's for the boat. So you and your partner can split that amount, and you guys are entered into the tournament, and you'll be fishing for your part of, I think it's going to be close to $14,000 in payout this year.
Like I say,
so
stronger than a lot of the Elite Series payouts.
So it'll be, it'll be plus it's a good time. There's no pressure on anybody, because everybody who's fishes, guess what? If you have a bad day and don't catch any fish, you won your tackle, basically, and you get to take that home with you and keep it. So there you have it. All right, George.
You know what's going on? One of the greatest shows on the water, the Bass Nation Championship.
Oh, yeah.
Is going on Grand Lake in Oklahoma. And we're going to have some nation anglers qualify for the Classic.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And
from this tournament. And guess what? Tomorrow's the last day.
Yeah. And there's some local guys from Pennsylvania that are in it, and Maryland, close to local guys.
Delaware.
From Maryland and Delaware that we know come into the shop here. John Venor's fishing it. Or not John Venor.
I was going to say not John Venor.
Not John Venor.
I saw Frank Arthur was up here getting some gear representing, I'm pretty sure it's Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we're we're pulling for everybody in that, but it's a big deal. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you fish Bass Nation, from your benefits of your club level, you know, the camaraderie, the knowledge, the competition, you know, you can take it to whatever level that you want. Like you can go and fish your state level,
Yeah.
and you can fish your regional level. And if you have a nice run going, you can go to the nationals, which is where these guys are competing right now. Well, there's a bunch of anglers competing that we know from all over the country.
Yeah.
And it's exciting, you know, the opportunity to make it to the Bassmasters Classic.
How many guys make it? One, two?
I am not 100% sure about that, but I think it's 3.
Mm.
But what's interesting is the winner gets the nation package, which is cool. You know, paid entries into into the opens, use of a truck and boat.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's really good. It's just, you know,
wow, that's cool.
If you're a competitor at that level, you know, it's you know, check out the Bass Nation. They offer a lot. And so we have that tournament going on now. The guy,
let me ask you something. Little trivia. Was it last year that a nation guy did really well in the classic tournament? Wasn't it last year?
if I had to guess off the top of my head, I'd say maybe second place.
There you go.
Tim Doobie, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, exactly. Second place.
But
Federation guy.
Yeah. What's interesting is I was looking at the weigh-in towards the end of the weigh-in. I didn't get the very last second in, but Will Davis Jr. was in second place. Now, Will Davis Jr. See, this baby, if you win it, you're automatically in it for the next year.
Yeah.
So he won it 2 years in a row. So he earned classic berth there twice. Now, interestingly, last year he also earned his classic berth through the elites.
So what did they do?
Well, they go down one more spot. So whoever is the first guy out in the elites is the biggest Will Davis Jr. fan.
Oh, so they dropped down in the elite side, not in the nation side.
Correct, Mundo. Well, he'll be double qualified.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So Will Davis Jr., if he wins again,
he's already qualified for the classic.
He's qualified through the elites,
right?
But
right,
if he wins this tournament, he'll be double qualified. So they'll go down to the next guy
on the elite side.
So whoever that is,
that's too bad they won't do it on the nation side.
Well, you know what? And I disagree with you.
Really?
And I'm going to tell you why. When you make it to the elites, you know, it's all in professional level commitment. And if you're one spot out, it's gut wrenching. It's brutal. It's so important for your career and trying to make it going forward. So always defer to those guys. Is the way I look at it.
Yeah, but he's already qualified, so I would look at it.
He's not going to get his. He's not taking the qualification on the elites. If he double qualifies, he's going to give it to the next out elite guy.
Yeah, I know. I understand that, but I'm saying that the elites are over. The qualification for the elites is in, and now he's doing the Federation Nation, and the whole idea behind a nation is a nation guy going to the classic. And if a guy is double qualified already, then it should go to the next guy down in the tournament that they're supposed to be taking somebody from.
Okay. Well, I mean,
that's just my take.
Yeah.
On it. You know, I see how you're saying it, but I also see that these guys that fish for the Federation have been fishing all their life to try for this too.
I mean, yeah, but it's not their livelihood. It's their recreation.
Well,
they have jobs that they're going back to work on Monday.
Well, these new elite guys are going to have to all take up part-time jobs too after those payouts.
Well, that may be true.
Yeah.
I mean, but oddly enough, if you want to discuss that, bang it around for a minute quickly, I have a hot take on that, as you might imagine.
Yeah, well,
so if you are a newly qualified elitist,
yeah,
and you just came out of the opens, and you're funding it, you're out on your own. Now, let me set the stage for you. How many guys do you know? Okay. In the past, that turned down their elite qualification bid because they could not afford to fish it.
Yeah.
How many? I mean,
There's a couple of them.
You know a lot of them.
Yeah, a couple of them for sure.
Okay, so even if you're not going to get paid as much, 100,000 is still 100,000 if you win.
Yeah.
And this is your chance to fish where you would have to possibly turn down your invitation.
Right.
If you're sitting there and you qualified when the opens were over and you were in the top 9 EQ, I will guarantee you 100% there's one or two guys there that were like, I wonder how I'm going to pay for this. I mean, we got, Mike, you and I have received phone calls over the years.
Yeah.
From people who wanted to get on our pro staff they're shaking the bushes.
Yeah.
To scrape up enough money to fish the elites.
Yeah.
It's like the expression of be careful what you wish for. As a matter of fact, our very good friend Greg DePalma turned it down his first year that he qualified.
Yeah.
And then he went out and requalified. So anyways, my point is, yes, this payout is what it is. And we chopped that up last week. Beautiful discussion. But there are pluses to this.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's sad stories too. There's some of the guys who dropped out last year on the elite side because they just can't afford it anymore. And they retired or they, left the circuit. Boy, if they would have known that was coming down the pipeline.
Well, if I'd have known what tomorrow's freaking Powerball numbers are, some shit would change around here. I can tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, that would suck.
There'd be a lot of people in the world with hurt feelings if that ever happens.
Well, I know a couple guys who dropped out, and it's a shame.
If I hit the Powerball, okay, for one of these crazy $900 million wins, I would have my own Elite Series team. And I would go back in time to the 80s. The 80s were the best gear for fishermen. We had, if you remember, for example, the white Ranger polyester golf shirts with the red trim on them.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was some stylish stuff right there. And then you had the flared out polyester pants, and it would say Ranger boats or Skeeter boats going down the side of the legs. Well, I got news for you. My Powerball funded Elite Series team, it's all coming back. And we're going to have, it's a 4-day tournament. We're going to have day 1 and day 2 options. I want you to think of Tiger on Sunday with the red shirt.
Oh, yeah.
Red jumpsuits, one-piecers. Okay? Yeah. With patches sewn on. Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you, don't let me win the Powerball because there'll be a lot of them opens anglers that I'm going to recruit. I'm going to have a draft.
That'd be so funny to have Greg Hankney in a one-piece jumper.
We're going to have a team of 5 matching
bell
trucks.
Bottoms with white boots.
OG, baby.
Yeah. All right.
Got a little sidetracked there.
Yeah.
I apologize.
So, what are they catching their fish on out there?
Well, Grand Lake is an interesting lake. There's no grass in it to speak of. But it's got all kinds of awesome hardcover.
Mm.
It's got all kinds of awesome rock. The whole state of Oklahoma is one giant rock.
Yeah.
It's got all kinds of hardwoods like oaks and pines. It's got all kinds of floating docks, cable docks.
Mm.
And, you know, it's an awesome fishery. Now you have a couple rivers that feed it. So you're going to have guys that are everywhere. And there's a lot of cranking going on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Throwing a lot of square bills, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of old school spinnerbaiting going on. You know, the Oklahoma and spinnerbaits go together like peas and carrots.
Yep.
You got your chatterbait getting thrown. You got your jerkbait getting thrown. And of course, the buzzbait and the plopper. Now, the buzzbait is going to get a nod in a lot of that lake because it's a little dingy. But in that little bit better vision lake, you know, you got to run that plopper. And, you know, that's like fall fishing 101, man. Buzzbait and or plopper, cover water, get on the windblown banks, crank, spinnerbait, chatterbait,
Yeah.
swim jig, pitch a jig. I mean, it's just, you know, up shallow, you know, play in the wind. Now, of course, you know, you're going to have your offshore scopers,
Oh yeah.
you know, that are going to be shaking their minnow
Jerkbaiting.
and jerkbaiting.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's pretty, I mean, this tournament's running the gamut.
Yeah.
Like, this is your typical, when you go to Oklahoma and fish a lake like Grand, if you like fishing the bank, these Oklahoma lakes are the bomb. I'll tell you, I'm going to have my jig laid up on the front deck. I'm going to have my finesse jig laid up on the front deck, and my jig's going to be up there in 2 weights. And that jig is going to get a ton of work. When I'm picking stuff apart with that jig, I'm picking apart every bit of that cover. When I was out there and the last time I was out there in Oklahoma fishing this national tournament, I was on a lake that was just exactly like this called Keystone, and we called it cracking. Putting that jig in every crack of the rock, picking it apart, seining it apart, you know, up underneath the cable docks, and just picking everything apart. And these fish are moving up, they're moving back, they're moving up, they're moving back. You can run the same bank multiple times per day, every day.
Yeah.
And that's how this plays. The crankbait, obviously, square bill, right?
Well, you know, probably one of the most overlooked for a lot of guys right now is the crankbait, the square bill crankbait. I think it's everybody's throwing a swim bait. They want to throw the Alabama rig. They want to throw.
Can't throw an Alabama rig in Bassmaster tournaments.
I'm just saying, and all around fishing, you got, you know, when guys are going out, there's just not a lot of square bill crankbait baiting going on. They're throwing spinner baits and chatter baits and buzz baits. This is the time of year where the square bill is just shining.
When I start in the fall, and if you watch a lot of these pros fishing these tournaments and they get into the true fall, it's quite often a shad colored crankbait. Okay, two-tone, darker back, obviously, lighter belly. Square bill. This is the 1.5. Awesome. Now, Bobby Lane, when he won the Forest Wood tournament, I don't even know what they call it, to be honest with you, Red Crest.
Yeah.
2 years ago?
That was more than that, I think.
No, it wasn't. He was cranking, but he was cranking a Fritz side.
Oh, yeah.
And that tournament was fairly early, right? Isn't Red Crest like March, April? So, you know, fairly early is the same as, like, those fish were starting to move up to spawn. That's the same as this time of the year. The fish behave exactly the same other than the spawning part.
Yeah.
And that's why you got to get your crankbait game dialed in for this time of the year. Whether you're on Grand Lake fishing for a spot in the Classic, or whether you're on your home lake trying to win your club derby or beat your buddy who's fishing with you on your day off.
Yeah. Well, last week we got into a big conversation about fishing windblown banks and everything, how important that is in the fall, and how it's pushing the bait around, and how it's stacking the bait up close to the shorelines, especially on that windblown shoreline. This is one of the perfect baits to throw, just cruising down a windblown bank.
So
on rock and wood and any kind of cover.
Yeah, and what I have here is a 1.5 KVD, just a prototypical square bill, 1.5 size. I mean, obviously the Lucky Craft 1.5. I mean, pick your company. Pick a company. I mean, pick your favorite company. They all make a bait like this, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, 6 Cents, Megabass, Rapala, Nomad. You get my meaning.
Yeah.
Spro, you get my meaning. So square bill, killer important bait.
Yeah.
Like this is obvious. I mean, you could argue if this is the most important season for this bait. Obviously, spring's going to make a powerful argument too. But I do not overlook crawfish patterns. There is a time, especially if you get a little bit of watercolor, and you start getting a little later into November and the water starts to chill.
Yeah.
This crawfish, various hues of crawfish colors. You can't see them, but killer. So, don't put your crawfish colors away. And if you get some dirty water, keep your red handy. But by all means, if you have decent water clarity, I can't, especially if you're on a body of water that has a lot of shad on it, I can't emphasize enough the effectiveness of a shad colored square bill.
Yeah.
Now obviously you're going to want to pick your depth. But we're talking about fairly shallow fishing anyways. Most of these square bills are 5-6 foot runners, which is what this is, and I like to fish mine on a little bit of heavier line. I'm usually fishing mine on a 15-pound fluorocarbon and bouncing it off as much cover. The thing about the square bill, you're not going to get hung as often as you might think. I mean, don't get me wrong. I appreciate on a crowded day that I can go down the bank and most of you aren't throwing your crankbait where you want to because you don't want to get snagged. I'm cool with that. But if you take this in consideration, this will come through that cover extremely well as long as you're somewhat disciplined in your retrieve.
Patience.
When you feel it hit that limb, a lot of times it's just going to go like this and deflect off of it, or it's going to ricochet off. Now, keep in mind, your hooks are going to be up against the belly like this. You ever see them swings on the side of your bait? So you're going to come in and get one of these numbers. Pause. It'll float up and back slightly. Bring it back in again. Hit again. Now, if you do get to where your bait's kind of hung up, but don't jerk on it. The worst thing you can do is jerk on it. You want to put that rod up. You want to get a full arm's length of line out. Load that rod. Flick your wrist and pluck that line at the same simultaneously. Very rarely are you going to lose this bait. I mean, if you crank all day long in the gnarliest of environment, I'm not going to lie to you, you may lose bait. But unless you're just being irresponsible with your retrieve, it's amazing. And the bites you trigger. So, can't stress enough the importance of cranking. Now, if you're in a little bit of a deeper environment, a little bit of a clearer environment, jump up to a little bit of a deeper diving bait. You know, I'm real big on like a 3XD style bait. You know, for that mid water column.
Yep.
Or, you know, whatever brand of the many brands that are out there.
Well, that's when the DTs really kick in. That DT 8s and DT 10s really fire in there really good. Fish catching machines on those.
Yep.
Really good for those steeper dropping banks, going to that little bit deeper lip just to kind of follow that contour down a little quicker.
I will say this, I'm going to back my line off. When I go to that deeper bait, I pick up an entirely different rod. I go to a true crankbait rod. Most of the time when I'm square bill fishing in cover, I don't use a crankbait rod. I use a regular fast taper rod. I mean, I use a crankbait rod on rock all the time. When I'm just cranking rock, I always have it on a crankbait rod. You know, a 7.2, medium, heavy, moderate. But when I'm cranking wood and grass, where I'm getting hung up a lot, I like that rod for popping it free.
Yeah.
And I like that rod for getting the fish out of there. I want to get the fish. I want to set the hook and remove the fish from the wood all in one move. So I use a 7-foot medium fast. Plus I have tremendous casting accuracy with that. So I'm putting that bait like in really precision spots on boat docks.
Yeah.
And lay downs.
Yeah.
Picking them apart. You know, last week we talked about the spinnerbait and how we are going to be patient on our casting angles. We're not going to cast across the laydown. We're going to wait until we position the boat so that we can cast multiple times down the laydown. Do you recall that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go down the limbs as they break off of the laydown. We're gonna basically trace that tree. Well, we have to have that same control here because we're doing the same thing with this crankbait. Also, if you recall, and this is big, is a lot of these laydowns extend very far off the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're fishing the visual portion and then what your eye thinks is the extension of that piece of wood, time and time again throughout the day, you're going to drive your boat with your trolling motor over top of and possibly contact the best part of it. So we talked about the benefits of our electronics. For you and I, it's a 360. Possibly we might be able to fan that with our forward facing. A lot of people have the forward facing. If you don't have those items, use your imagination. That's how we did it for decades. Picture that tree. Think about how tall that tree was when it fell in the water, you know, and give it a wide berth. You can cast 50 feet. If you get 50 feet outside of it and you're 50 feet away from that imaginary piece of wood that we're trying to paint a picture of here, you can still get your good cast there. And then you can reverse back on it for another pass. But if you go driving into it time and time again, every one of those times is a primo situation. Some of the biggest fish we catch is like getting out to the end of that cover. Lay down. Talking lay downs.
Yeah.
And I love cranking lay downs.
Yeah, so you got your gravel bars, your flats, that you're fishing with your square bills, that crankbait that goes down about 5 feet. Your rip-rappy, shallow rip-rappy banks, that have a lot of rock, you use that square bill. But if you get to that little steeper dropping bank that kind of goes in the water and keeps going on in the water on it like this, that's when you step up to that little bit bigger lip in that, that 10-foot diver where you can contact that rock a few times on the way down and get down there in that 10 feet. And that's what George is saying. He's switching up to a little lighter line, going maybe to a 10-pound test instead of a 15 or 12 or even heavier in the trees and stuff. But we'll go to a 10 or a 12 pound for those types of situations and be able to bang that rock on the way down as you're going down that bank and fishing those wind-blown banks that are just so good this time of year.
I'm just going to let you know I use 10.
Yeah. So
I'm going to tell you the 10-pound quality fluorocarbons that we're fishing, take a beating.
Oh, they do.
Now, when I get up on the bank, I'm 15 fluorocarbon. And again, that same beating there. But I do want to say this.
Well, I mean, I think you're kind of conflicting here because
Not at all.
yeah, when you're fishing a steep dropping bank.
No, I'm talking about up on the bank, in the cover, in the wood, in the heavy cover.
Yeah.
That's the 15.
Oh, okay. Well, you're back on that again.
No, I was just saying about the two different
well,
lines.
I'm talking about the steeper dropping banks.
I'm using 10 on that.
A 10-pound bank because you want to get the maximum depth and you want to crack that rock a couple times on the way down as you're going down that bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Get some.
I don't usually go down it though. I parallel them.
That's what I'm saying. You're coming. You don't go straight parallel. You kind of come at a slight angle, but you're kind of paralleling out, throwing up on the bank and bringing that. If this is the bank here, you're kind of coming at a slight angle on that bank, kind of down like that as much as you can. Now, we're not all professional fishermen, so we got a buddy in the back of the boat, and we can't be screwing him. So, we might have to pull out a little bit. So,
you never fished with me before, but
yeah, I did.
You got to come up front.
No, I just throw your ass off the boat if you start back
front.
You start back into me, buddy. We got a problem.
Now we both fish off the front deck.
We got a problem
for that reason.
We got a big problem.
Keep your bait in the strike zone.
Yeah, but if you got somebody in the back of the boat, your strike zone, you're only going to be in it not quite as long as the guy who's really sucking in on that bank.
And in all seriousness, if it's like a club tournament or some sort of a tournament where we're not competing, where we're competing against each other, or even a co-angler situation, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
But if it's me and a buddy, me and a buddy fishing, in that scenario, come on up front, brother.
Yeah.
Because you know what we're going to do? We're going to put two baits at two slightly different depths with two slightly different sizes, with two slightly different colors, and we're going to dial in twice as fast. Some of the best November crankbait bites I have ever been on was fishing with you or a buddy, and exactly doing that. Dialing it in with different color baits, different styles of baits, having somebody get bites when you're not, having them get more bites when you're not, then make the adjustment, and now you start getting bites, and now it's game freaking on. And I do like the approaching fronts. Okay? So, be aware of the weather. The biggest thing you can do is be aware of the weather in November, December, because the approaching fronts, the stable weather that ends in an approaching front is money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's money. So, as that front's coming in and that barometric pressure is dropping, it's power fishing 101. So the other type of crankbait, Mike, that we wanted to talk about that we do a ton of with this time of the year that has to be in play, and I'm sure is getting a run on Grand.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, if that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, rattle trap. You're not throwing a rattle trap this time of year. You know.
Yeah, you screwed up big time.
I'm just saying.
Now, this thing you're going to fish on a retrieve. You're also going to yo-yo. So yo-yoing, we mean let it flutter down. Now, this is a red eye, so it kind of falls like this. Let it flutter down, and then yo-yo it up. So you get the flutter down and swim it up. Flutter down and swim it up. Deadly, deadly, absolutely deadly. November, December, money. You can dial in the greatest bite ever. Pay attention to the style of lipless bait that you're fishing, because here is where it makes a little bit of a difference. Like when you're on shad and suspended fish, okay, this style of horizontal falling bait, this red eye shad, is deadly. Suspending fish, shad bodies of water, bait fish bodies of water with a lot of suspended fish, you're getting that that horizontal fall of this red eye is deadly. The LV 500, deadly. When you're truly yo-yo fishing and your fish are bottom oriented, then I like to get to a bait that stands on its head. Comes down like this. Stands on its nose, okay? That's when I'm fishing the Spro Uruku shad, the Jackal TN series, baits that stand on their nose, right?
We do that dragon too. Like, you get it down there and you just kind of real close to the bottom. Those nose down baits really work well with that type of technique.
Now, tackle for that. In the more open water environments, the crankbait style rod works fantastic because you have that delay. When you pick up, it's like you don't realize you have a fish there for a second or two till everything gets tight, and very, very rarely do you miss them, and very, very rarely do you lose them.
Big on that. That's glass for that.
Glass or moderate tapered, medium heavy, graphite crankbait rods.
The Deep Flex Loomis rod is very popular.
It is. That for me, that's extreme. That's an extreme rod. I can't fish that rod.
I like that rod. But
now give me the regular
my
CBR from Loomis, the moderate taper, the 843, the 845. Moderate, not the deep flex. I'm not a deep flex guy. For all you deep flex guys out there, don't take it personally.
I like it. I really like S glass. I like the depending on the size of the bait, the medium, moderate, 7 foot, 7.2 for rattle trapping, especially in the colder water. When we get down to that dragon and yo-yoing, really like it for that. That delayed, like George said, the built-in delayed reaction. Man, they don't come off. And a lot of times it's just like all of a sudden there's a leaf on there and then you lean into it.
Fish.
The other thing about that, see, this is early fall for us. It's like really aggressive, still very, very aggressive fish. So, you can just throw a rattle trap out and burn it and just kind of burn it back to you, cover a lot of water with them, and they'll eat it. They'll eat it real good right now because the water's in the 60s, the mid 60s. And they're chasing hard. They're still hitting top waters. So, that straight retrieve, that straight throw out and reel back retrieve. I even like the glass rod for that because they rock it. When they hit it on the burn, they just rip the rod out of your hand, and that rod really flexes and lets that fish turn on a little bit, and you get good hooks in it for that too. So,
I will say this now, in the open water, in the cold portions, like when we get into some cold water, I drop my pound test. But now in this true fall environment, I'm still back up into a heavier, like 15-pound, 12 to 15-pound line, only because if I'm yo-yoing on a lot of rock, my line's taking a beating.
Yeah.
And also, I have a tendency to put these things in forms of cover right now that they probably shouldn't be in.
Well, plus
I go through a lot of lipless baits.
Plus, there is still some good grass yet. There's still some good grass out there to be fished, and that heavier line you can fish through that, and it helps hold that bait up in the tops of that grass real good. So you're going to fluctuate some lines still. You're definitely going to do that. But like George does a lot, he fishes graphite rods, and then he has his glass setups, that we kind of share together. We fish the same. So it's like we fish graphite rods, and then we have glass rods for the different types of stuff. But if you don't have that, if all you have is glass rods for your crankbaits and your rattle traps, you're going to be fine with it. It's going to work great. You can mess with your pound test lines though, and really mess with that. And you can, because you hook a fish in this heavy cover, you got to get them out, so that heavy line will help you. The abrasion resistance will help you get, when you're yo-yoing. But don't.
I'm glad we don't have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Because I love them both. But if I had to, if someone was like telling me you can have one crankbait rod for the rest of your life, it would be a medium heavy, moderate graphite crankbait rod. But the nice thing is, and we don't have to make that decision.
No.
So I have a couple each, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, I know.
And I do a lot of cranking, like I said earlier, with a fast taper, 7-foot medium, especially when I'm cranking grass and cranking wood, because I want to get them out of that tree. I want to rip the bait clean of the grass. But don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to, think you are dialed in and then try something different.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how you're going to stay. Maybe you're not.
Well, the other crankbait that I think we should kind of just touch on a little bit is the flat-sided crankbaits. When you get into that colder water, we're coming up on that because it could happen quick.
And I want to talk about that because we always pigeonhole the flat-sided crankbait as a cold water crankbait.
Yeah,
which is where it excels.
Yeah,
but it has to be really freaking cold for that to be a difference maker. Mm-hmm. That flat-sided crankbait will catch fish like they're going out of style right now.
Yeah.
The thing about the flat-sided crankbait in the fall is the different wobble.
Yeah, the vibration is totally different.
Sometimes those shad, as that water gets a little colder, they're just acting different. Mm-hmm. So I always mix in the Fritz side to my mix. Always.
Yeah.
I always mix in the Spro Little John to my mix. Always. If I'm cranking in fall, which I'm always cranking in fall, I'm tying a lot of knots. I have a lot of baits out.
Yeah.
I have a lot of rods rigged up, and I am committing to the crankbait, and I'm throwing, the full mix. My flat sides that carry the most weight for me are right now are Fritz side and Spro Little John. Those carry the most, and that Fritz side is hard to freaking beat.
Forgot the chick magnet.
Love the chick magnet.
Chick magnet's badass.
Throw the chick magnet a lot.
And even between those three flat sides, you have a tight wobble. With the Fritz side, you get more of a tight vibration. And then when you get to the chick magnet, you do have it's a tight turn, but it's a bigger side to side body roll like this. It's not a tail roll like your 1.5s where you get a lot of this. It's the body rolls this way. With the Fritz side, it's more of a tighter thing. So even within your flat sides, you'll have tight and a little wider. And there's a time and a place for that too. And then the third part of that is the real cold water.
Real cold.
And
that's not, I don't even call that fall anymore.
Late fall in the early winter, and then you get into your shad wraps, your shad style baits. So shad wraps really work well in those low 40s and upper 30s. That's when they really start working well.
Oh yeah, and we'll talk about those when we get there, because that's something we talk about a lot. We talk about the shad wrap and the X wrap shad, not the X wrap, but the X wrap shad. We talk about that bait a lot. We talk about the shad wrap a lot. Mm-hmm.
Everybody seems to be coming out with one of them too.
Spectacular. Now, and then we talk about the hybrid style baits, like the hybrid style suspending. Is it a crankbait or is it a jerkbait? Like in the 65 millimeter size.
Yeah.
75 millimeter size, Megabass and Shimano, and we'll talk about all that. We'll do a show on that. We're going to get down and dirty with light line cranking in very cold water, which, by the way, is absolutely deadly, and I can't wait to break that down. But we got a lot of power fishing to do between now and then.
Yeah, George and I are fishing Sunday, and somebody asked what our water temperature is. It's our water temperature is crazy. It's in the mid 60s. They fished a tournament over the weekend on one of our local lakes, and they were fishing 64-degree water temperature, and they were fishing the river yesterday, and somebody said they had 67, 68 somewhere, which is crazy. Absolutely.
Probably an afternoon temperature.
Yeah.
On,
West side of the river.
Yeah, with the sun beating on it and right up against the bank.
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying that's crazy.
Right, but it's extreme.
So it's for me cranking. I'm cranking still because it's the time of the year to crank. These fish, even though it got warm, they still know it's fall because the time of day has changed. The days are shorter, so they know that they have to feed. Just because it got warm doesn't just throw them back into a summer pattern. Not at all. They feed like crazy. They're going to chase the shad. They're going to follow the shad. They're going to move a lot. And what I really like about cranking, and which is what we're going to do a lot on Sunday. I know we're going to be throwing a lot of crankbaits. Is it allows you to cover that water, and it really is an effective fish catching bait. So it's definitely fall, even though the water might have warmed up, 6, 8, 9 degrees for a lot of us, up here where we're at. It doesn't change the fact that the crankbait's going to slay them. And I'm going to be chucking that rattle trap, and I'm going to be burning that rattle trap, and I'm going to be, yo-yoing that rattle trap and fluttering that rattle trap. And I'm going to try all these different retrieves until I get in, until we dial in on exactly what color and what tempo they want those baits at. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's kind of when you're cranking, it's almost like you don't care what the water temperature is when you're cranking. It's almost like you don't care, and the way that our knowledge on bass behavior has changed so radically since we started fishing with forward-facing sonar.
Mm-hmm.
It's like less important than it's ever been, because the models that we thought we knew were only correct for like 10% of the time. Now, I'll tell you where I do like to know the water temperature this time of the year is when the fronts are coming through. Because if I know it...
Step back a second here. 10% of the time or 10% of the fish?
10% of the time.
That we think we know that up before forward facing, what we mastered,
and we thought was the stuff.
I would say 10% of the fish, not 10% of the time.
I would say 10% of the time,
because we always caught them. We might not have caught the really big ones or the right fish, but we always caught them. But it was the big schools were somewhere else doing
something else.
Yeah,
90% of the time.
Yeah. No, I'm saying 90% of that fish was doing that, but you still could go, do what we were doing without the.
Well, what I've learned with the forward-facing sonar is the models that we thrived on, and had unwavering confidence in, and the reason we caught them so good. Those models are accurate about 10% of the time. The other 90% of the time, as we are learning, things like the water temperature is not that important. I never in my life would ever crank bait fish in the high 30s water temperature. It would never even occur to me. I'd put my boat in the water, I'd look at the temperature gauge, and I'd be like, I mean, crankbait's out. Yet, if you have the right conditions, our famous 3-day rule that we discuss, and on that third or fourth day, there's another approaching front, you better be cranking. Because you're going to catch a lot of quality fish doing that. Now, the crankbait is kind of important that you use. You're not going to do that with a KVD 1.5. And I'll even say this. When it gets real cold, the difference between a shad wrap and a fritz side is a 99% difference in favor of the shad wrap. You might catch a fish on the fritz side. So that's kind of where I'm coming from when I say that I think it's a very interesting conversation that we can have about the importance of water temperature. Now, yes, it's nice to know.
I think water temperature is more important in the spring wouldn't you say?
Well, it's nice to know. And yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
To know that spawning cycle.
Right.
But it's also nice to know because all of the great things that we learned are still true. So I want to have a starting point, right? Here's my deal. I start every day with the mindset that the fish are going to be extremely aggressive and I'm going to rip them, which means I'm power fishing from the get-go. I'm not driving my boat up somewhere, picking up a spinning rod with a drop shot and starting off with that. It's just not going to happen. Now, let's say that I was out fishing and the water temperature was 64, like we just discussed, in the second week of November. And all of a sudden, typical November weather set in for 4 or 5 days. And
like we're going to have that on Sunday.
And my next trip was, 4 or 5 days later. And I'm like, I don't care what the weather is. I'm going. Well, when I put that boat in the water, I'm going to look at that water temperature gauge. And if that water temperature gauge says 56 degrees, it's going to set my mind in a direction.
I'm still going to crank,
start,
but I might not be cranking. I'm going to be, banging that thing into the rocks and getting tighter to cover. But I'm going to go shallow. I'm going to go super shallow, and I'm going to fish them rocks. I'm going to bang the trees a lot more. I'm going to slow it down, my crankbait, in that situation. But I'm not going to stop cranking because the temperature drops 6-8 degrees.
You definitely never stop cranking.
Yeah.
But it gives you a guideline on how to crank.
Yeah, exactly.
November is a crankbait month.
Yeah.
And November is probably more importantly a lipless crankbait month.
Very good. Yep.
Okay. And of course, a jerkbait month. And I'm sure that out on Grand Lake, we have some really good jerkbait fishing taking place. And in this part of the world, we have some fabulous jerkbait fishing taking place. So make sure in your hard bait armada that you are fully prepped and ready to jerkbait fish. Now typically when we have these more mild falls and the fish will stay around the smaller shad longer, but don't get too locked in on that. They're going to be around shad, but they might be around the bigger shad. But typically, I'm going to go ahead and proclamate to you that you need to be in your standard size, like a 110 size jerkbait. And, just use your basic guidelines, cloudy day, clear water, use something a little more opaque. Sunny day, clear water, use something a little less, a little more translucent. Stick with your ghost colors in the clear water and your more painted colors in the dingier water. And concentrate on that retrieve. Is it a dead sticking retrieve? Is it a quick retrieve? The thing about the jerkbait, it's like the crankbait, it calls the fish in. And nothing is more deadly on suspended fish that are on bait or shallow water fish that are on bait than a jerkbait can be. It calls them in. And if that bite is happening, you better be good at it. You better have your game dialed in. Now, I do like to downsize my line. I do fish in this open water jerkbait fishing. I do fish 10. I'm a 10-pound fluorocarbon guy. Always have been. Just absolutely never break off a fish because I'm always checking my line. Plus, these modern fluorocarbons are so spectacular. And I'm also a shorter rod guy, a 6'6". I like a fast taper, medium heavy power, and a faster reel. And that's just something that if you get bit a couple times consistently on a jerkbait, then you lock it in your hand and you commit to it. And the mindset changes because the retrieves are a little slower. The mindset changes to fewer but higher quality bites. So you get that really good confidence build because every fish you catch is better. And of course, it's a phenomenal forward-facing sonar bait. I know you jerkbait a lot, Mike, under these circumstances. And I would venture a guess to say that, October, November, and December, you very rarely will fish a day without spending quite a bit of time with a jerkbait.
Oh yeah. I mean, what you do this time of year, it's a big fish catching bait. It's, it's getting those fish to strike it. It's turning those fish that are followers into hitters. You can make a fish bite a jerkbait. You can fish it from now until the coldest part of the fall and have success with it just by varying your speeds. They got all kinds of jerkbait colors now for all different water clarities and sunny days,
sizes of jerkbaits,
cloudy days. They got, the big giant jerkbaits in case you get on a big shad bite, or some of these lakes where they're running the big giant blue herrings and stuff. You got the big jerkbaits. George and I,
the big Kanata, the big 128 pointer.
George and I, before too long, we'll be throwing the pointer 100 will be a small one. We'll be moving into a 128 pointer. We'll throw that around a good bit. That's when you start busting that out. The end of middle of November, towards the end of November, man, when those fish are wanting that big bite right now.
Something I've noticed, Mike, with our jerkbait fishing when we're out on suspended fish on forward facing, are how much more reliant we are on deep diving jerkbaits, because we're not casting as far, because we're casting to a specific fish or a couple of fish, and we want the bait to get down much faster than it normally would. And what's kind of modified, if we're forward facing, it's kind of modified how we approach the jerkbait game. And one of the things that I've noticed is with you and I is the +1s. Mm-hmm. Like if we're forward facing, it's generally a +1 tied on.
A lot of +1 stuff.
And it's casting to the fish and then sweeping the rod to quickly get the bait down, and then proceeding with a retrieve, a jerkbait retrieve. Now, when we're just typically like open water school fishing, it's more of generally, because we're not fishing super deep, it's generally more of the standard like Vision 110 or like a pointer 100, or really like that World Minnow 115. Really, I get a little more depth out of that bait. I really like the flash, and I really like the almost excessive hard cut to it. It's kind of interesting, the world of the jerkbait. Like when you get into this jerkbait world, like for me, I'm all about, of course, the 110, and as I said, the 128. I mean, the 100 pointer. But then I'm looking for like a different, like cut, a different hard cut to activate fish. I find myself reaching. I used to reach for that jackal that they don't bring in the country anymore, and now I find myself reaching for that 115 World Minnow. And then in my deeper diving jerkbaits, it's the same thing. It's the Vision 110 +1, the DD Lucky Craft, and that World Minnow 95 diver version to get down. So it's kind of interesting how our jerkbait, game has evolved, and the baits that we really rely on, and the colors.
Crazy.
We've added in a lot more, especially in the fall. We've added in a lot more of like reaction colors. like a lot of orange, a lot of chartreuse, especially on a cloudy day.
Well, you can make it very simple, but let me tell you something. I've just learned that, there's the time and a place for the bright colors, and you better have them in your box, whether that's a bright belly color or a bright tail color, or a whole body bright color. The stupid color that I can't stand, the hot steel that everybody talks about. These are stupid colors that fish shouldn't eat. But you got to be able to say, especially in the fall, it's creating that reaction, and part of that reaction can be a color reaction. And just because a jerkbait may not be like I can pretty much get it done with a ghost minnow and a chartreuse shad color in a jerkbait. I could pretty much get it done. But then if I'm not getting bitten, I know it's a jerkbait thing, then I'm going to start messing with a chartreuse belly. I'm going to start meshing with HT Ito Tennessee shad with the chartreuse tail, a little bit of color on the tail. I'm going to be messing with some chartreuse back colors, because that could be the key for the strike. You know what I mean? And they're still looking for that bigger bait. So don't just say, well, the shad colors are what you need this time of year, because that's true. That's probably, most of the time true, but the color situation in crankbaits and in jerkbaits can be a big changer. That's why they make 7,000 different colors, for different parts of the world. But those oddball colors sometimes, man. Fire tiger. What the hell would a fish eat a fire tiger for? Huh?
It works great.
It works great. That's right.
Well, I thought this would be fun. When I was walking out of my garage this morning, I reached over to one of my boats, and I grabbed a couple of jerkbait combos just to kind of talk about, some of the stuff that we're doing. Now, this is an old school setup here that I love to death. It's certainly not the oldest one I brought with me today, but this is a previous generation GLX Loomis 783 MBR, fast taper, medium heavy. Probably, arguably, my number one all-time most famous favorite jerkbait rod ever made. And then look at this old school reel on here.
Are we getting rid of that this year?
No.
Yeah, we have to.
Okay, well, just make sure you don't pick it up. And that's just like getting rid of it.
It has to go. That thing, man, spinning backwards. And
that doesn't happen. So this is one of my favorite old reels. This is an old Chronarch MG. I love some of this old tackle, right? But spooled up with 10-pound high seas fluorocarbon. Probably my favorite jerkbait line ever. But look at the bait that I've been throwing under this extremely clear water on this super long extended period of stable weather. Bluebird skies, crystal clear water, very little wind a lot of times. Look how clear this bait is. I mean, this bait is essentially probably the most transparent bait I throw. And I got to tell you,
it's a ghost pattern. It's a ghost, and your ghost ones are your transparent.
This is like the ultimate
colors
of ghost. This is almost clear.
Yeah, that's ghost chartreuse shad. Ghost chartreuse shad.
You're not going to say it again?
Ghost chartreuse shad.
Yeah. But I had to weight it. See my suspend strip on there? I had to weight it to get it to suspend. It was rising up on me slowly, and they just wouldn't touch it. I put that little bit of suspend strip on there and just banged them up big time. Yeah, so I just thought it'd be cool to look at that. This is something that I've been throwing lately, and it's working good. And I thought you guys might get a kick out of this old rod and reel. The other one's even older. But yeah, it's prime time. It's prime time jerkbait season as well, and I'm a huge proponent of that. I'm really big on the slack line thing. You got to jerk that slack line. Look at that thing, man. Old Crotto on a really old GLX. That is your first generation GLX. That rod's probably from the mid 90s.
So I haven't been fishing in a month or so, month and a half, because I've been really busy here at the store, and he had to bring some rods in to put some line on them. And you saw what that one looked like. And I have been fishing, mind you. Just so you know.
That thing's been laying in the rod locker of the Skeeter.
Right there. You see it.
Since the last time you touched it. But that rod?
Me. That's you all the way, buddy.
No. What's interesting about that rod is that's an OG.
I love that rod.
GLX. That's a mid 90s rod. It's fun to bring the old stuff out and talk about it.
We caught 1 or 2 on this rod right here, George.
Oh, yeah. But, get your jerkbait dialed in. Really work on that retrieve. Make sure you have independent pops of the rod tip. Make sure you have slack in between your pauses. Get your lipless game dialed in. Make sure you have horizontal flutterers, nose down fallers. Get your crankbait game dialed in. Make sure you have shad colored and crawfish colored square bills and some slightly deeper DT10, DT8 style baits.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's primo prime time right now. Now,
get going.
It was interesting. I saw a you guys from this part of the world will find this interesting. Saw a comment up here from Bob Murray.
You can't hit that. That doesn't work.
And he was talking about his water temperature in his lake is like pushing 70 still in the Highland Lake of Tennessee. And, what would we do? Well, here's what's interesting about that. And you may run into that in the mid-Atlantic states right now with this warm trend. You got to go back to how we started talking here at the beginning of the show. You got to become a plopper guy. If I was on Bob Murray's Highland, Tennessee lake.
He's talking 79 and 80s. Oh, air temps.
Yeah, no. If I was on
69 in a day, 70 degrees. Yep.
Yeah, if I was on his lakes right now, I would be all about wolf packs cruising the bank. Now, what I mean by that is 4, 5, 6 fish groups cruising the bank, which you have here and everywhere. And it's really hard to beat a plopper, and you're in that, we're in that mid 60 to low 60 water temperature range. That is primo prime time top water situation till the next front comes in. So cover water with the plopper, Bob. And, we're going to do that as well. But we might throw the spook because it might be a little more suited for us. But you need to put a plopper on and put that trolling motor on and go. And never cast to the same spot twice and go.
Yeah, you can follow that up with a bootfoot paddle tail swim bait too, Bob. That's what I would do. Cover a lot of water with those.
Follow-up bait. Always have that ready.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
that is the state of the union right now as far as getting out there and cranking, if that's what you want to call it, the cranking show. Not really, but sort of.
Yeah, crankbait talking. I don't know how we even morphed into that, but that was fun.
I don't know how we even morphed into it either, but we did.
It was fun. I love cranking. Get out there and crank. Expand your cranking horizons and see what it brings you. And as always, if you have any questions with any of your techniques that you are fighting with or just don't understand, you can always give us a call here at shop or stop in and we will help you. Drop us an email, drop us a note on Facebook or whatever, and we'll try to get back with you as best we can and answer those questions because we're here to help you catch more fish. Got anything else, George?
Well, nothing earth shattering that I want to report to you, but yeah, just looking forward to getting out this weekend and
I'm stoked about
fishing hard.
We'll let you know about how we did next week, and we'll tell you how because we got a big cold front coming in. We'll tell you how we fared with that and how we're going to change our techniques with our crankbaits and our other jerk baits that we're going to throw and dial ourselves into the bite for the weekend, and we'll give you a little heads up on that next week.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. We appreciate it very much. And until next time, we'll catch you on the next Tackle Shop Live.
Right there, you took my breath away. Young and pretty, you wasn't just a dream. The next day, you called me up. You told me I'm your little buttercup. You came over and you fell into my arms. Well, I know what I feel. Please tell me your love is real. You make me smile.